but he is a very important saint. He's another Irish missionary saint. He's from a little bit earlier than most of them. He was born, we think, in 484 towards the end of the 5th century. So just to put him in a timeline, Saint Columba was born, I think, in 520 or 521, so about 35 years later. And Saint Patrick, the famous saint connected with Ireland, was born probably sometime a bit earlier than him. We don't know exactly Saint Patrick's birth date. So Saint Brendan, he was born in 484 in a place called Tralee, which is in the southwest coast of Ireland. And we know, or we believe that at the age of 1, he went to a monastic school run by nuns, and it was run by a saint. I think we've got her icon in the church, Saint Ita. Saint Ita was a nun who was known as the foster mother of Irish saints, was her title, because she looked after so many boys and young girls in her school who went on to become saints. So he was there until he was 6, and then he went to another monastery and finished his studies under another interesting saint called Saint Erk, who I didn't know anything about, but today I was reading about him, and it's very interesting. Saint Erk was a druid, and he abandoned his former life as a druid when he heard Saint Patrick speaking in his life. So he's the one who finished Saint Brendan's life, Saint Brendan's education, and also ordained him in the year 512. He was 28 years old when he became a priest and archimandrite, Saint Brendan. So what was he famous for? He was actually very famous in his life for founding monasteries and also for building cells, kilia. The Irish monastics had a habit of building small wooden kilia in the shape of a kind of beehive, and he constructed many of these in lots of different places all around Ireland, and he founded some important monasteries. The most important one was Clonfert Monastery in Ireland, which was a very, very big one in its day, and it lasted for more than 1,000 years, the monastery as a centre of education. It used to have about 3,000 monks at any one time. He's supposed to have met Saint Columba in his life in Scotland. Apparently he travelled to Scotland and founded a monastery near Oban, and also apparently founded a monastery on Arran, which is the island where I'm from. So that's a nice little thing for me there. And apparently he met Saint Columba while he was here. But what he's most famous for today is his title that Father announced at the beginning, Saint Brendan the Navigator. And it's not just because he travelled a lot around Great Britain and British Isles, but it's because he's reputed to have made a journey that lasted 7 years with a number of other monks. We're not sure exactly how many travelled with him, maybe 14. And he discovered what is described as the Isle of the Blessed, or sometimes called the Land of Promise. And there's a very famous written account of this journey, and historians are very interested about this journey. Was it a real journey? You know, where did he go, and so on. And it tells many interesting stories, this journey. He talks of seeing rivers of fire and stone pouring into the sea, and also giant crystal pillars in the sea. And of course, now it's possible to say that, or historians think that possibly he was in Iceland at this time and witnessing volcanic activity and icebergs on his journey. So historians, non-Christian historians, are divided about his journey, where he went and so on. There is a popular belief that he possibly was the first Western person to arrive in America, the continent of North America. So this would make him before the Vikings even arrived, because we now know that it wasn't Columbus who was first to America. It's believed by most historians to have been the Vikings many centuries before, but he would have been before even them if he made it to America, which is what many people believe. Historians doubted this, but there's a nice story. In the 1970s, there was a man, an Irish man called Tim Severin, who was very interested in St. Brendan's life, and he wanted to prove that this journey was possible in the same kind of boat that St. Brendan had, which was just a boat made of animal skins and wood, which sounds pretty flimsy, but in fact they kind of knew what they were doing. And this man managed to prove he replicated the same journey. He went from Ireland to Iceland to Greenland and then to America. It took him a long time, but he showed that it could be done. So we remember St. Brendan as this extraordinary traveler and missionary for the faith, and somebody who did something new, let's say, that nobody else had done. He traveled into the horizon. He had the courage, true courage in his faith. And if you're on the west coast of Ireland, you look further west, and people believed there was nothing. Just, you know, the Atlantic was so vast, and he, through the courage of his faith, believed that God would show him a promised land, a different land, and he achieved that. And so we remember him as a navigator, and many sailors and navigators today regard him as their patron saint. And we remember him on the 16th of May, Saturday, tomorrow, but we already started that day because we had Vespers. And I think he's somebody who we should try to keep in our thoughts and prayers, and ask him to pray to God for us, to help guide us, and also to help us have perhaps the courage that he had, the courage of faith, because we need courage in our faith to sometimes to step into the unknown, the complete mystery, like he did. And yeah, let's keep his memory alive, because anyway, he is alive, because death doesn't separate the saints from us. So it's for our good to remember him, not his. So let's remember St. Brendan, the navigator.